we are speaking about the status of women inside this country, we have to historically locate that what has been the role of women inside our country, inside our society. Because today, what the Bharatiya Janata Party or the right-wing fascist powers are trying to tell us, that the role of women are inside the household is not what the role of women has been inside our country, inside our society. The role of women inside our country, we see historically, has been that of a fighter, has been that of giving revolutionary direction to the society. The role of women inside our country has been of freedom fighters, of the ones who have always advocated equal rights, has always talked about emancipation of the women, has been talking about emancipation of the people, and has been always to talk about how the society can be equal inside the society. If we historically see, if we see in the history, what was the role of the women when the British imperialists, the colonial forces were there? The women on those times were the ones who were in the front line, who were in the forefront, whether it's in Kerala, whether it's across the country, that women were the ones who were continuously challenging the colonial forces, who were telling that inside this society, there is no hierarchy that will be tolerated. Inside this country, there will be no colonial power that will be tolerated. If people will live inside this society, they will live with their heads high. They will be living according to their democratic processes, according to their ways and means. And we saw that how historically the Britishers and several other imperial forces and colonial forces tried to suppress the voices, not only that of our people, but that of the women and especially the people coming from the marginalized community. But 1947 made a change inside our society. 1947 made a change inside our country, and then eventually we adopted the constitution inside this country, which guaranteed fundamental right to each and every citizen inside this country. But that was theoretically. That was through law. What we saw as practice in our society was something different, and that is exactly where the state's intervention is very, very important, and a government's intervention is very, very important. The Constitution guaranteed fundamental right to each and every citizen. The Constitution did not say that inside our country, if there is a man and a woman, if there is a girl and a boy, that both of them can't access equal education. The Constitution guaranteed each and every citizen inside this country that whatever your gender is, whatever your caste is, whatever your race or religion is, you are equal inside this country and nobody can discriminate you inside this society. But what we saw inside the practice, that in several societies, in several states, under several governments, we saw that discrimination, which was historically there, caste-based, religion-based, or gender-based, that was still practiced. But at the same time, we saw several social reformers, several progressive people, several democratic people, and especially the women, were organizing themselves post-1947 also, and understood the importance that unless and until social transformation is there, along with political rights, there wouldn't be any change categorically, or there wouldn't be representation of the women or the marginalized community within our society. And that's why, from then onwards, we saw that how women and several other people started organizing them for their political rights too inside our country. We saw that in several times, that inside this country, women though got the right to vote, but we saw that several women couldn't come out and couldn't exercise their right to vote. We saw that even in a country like India, where women got their right to vote, we saw what political party they will be voting for, what political ideology they will be standing for, was very much dominated how their family thinks. And women independently were not in an environment where they could politically exercise their rights. And that is where the need for political representation of women is very, very important. When we talk about, at this moment, that 33% of reservation inside the Indian Parliament, in every electoral representation of the women is necessary, we don't speak in vacuum. We do understand that when women will be represented politically inside that Parliament, women downstairs will be having the voices for them fighting in the Parliament. And we do understand, that's why historically how gender discrimination has happened within the society, we need to address that. There has to be institutional mechanisms for it and not only social fights. Because social fights will give us the direction, but institutional mechanism will guarantee those positive affirmative rights for the women and all the marginalized gender. And that is what we have seen over the fight that women's organizations have fought, that student organization, the girl students have fought, is that unless and until there is institutional mechanisms within our society, within the organizations that we work for, we are not going to actually emancipate women. And that is where, when we are talking about sexual harassment, when we are talking about how much representation of women is there today in the parliament, we are seeing that historically, even there was discrimination in the society. The government that has been leading inside this country, whether it was before the Congress and whether it's the Bharatiya Janata Party at this moment, we have been seeing how governments are using their machineries, their political tools to ensure that the inequality that is there within the society, that pertains, that remains. And that is why three things is very, very important. The education of the women, the employment guarantee of the women, and also if we see the political representation of the women inside the society is very, very important in order to break these shackles of suppression or the oppression that women are facing today inside our society. And that is where we will see what is the status of women in education inside our society. Although we see that fundamentally every woman should be having, like every citizen, access to schools, education, primary education, secondary education, and higher education inside the society. But is it so? Is it literally happening? Are we seeing a government which is there at this moment in power is bringing in policies which are advocating women's rights, which is advocating that more and more women can go inside the society? No. We are seeing that how educational institutions today are running, how discrimination is openly happening, is discouraging women even to enter educational institutions. For example, all of you would have heard what happened in Karnataka. When girl students, when college-going students were wearing hijab, they were denied of education. The first thing that they were done was denied of education. The point is, inside a society today, if women are wanting education, what is being denied is they are being looked upon by their caste or religion and then being decided whether they will get education. So this is the condition of the state. This is the reaction of the state towards the women in our society. That if women are wearing something, if the women practice something, that is more important. What is not more important is their education. That they have been denied of their education. All these while, in the last 6 to 7 months, there are hundreds of college-going students who come from the Muslim community in Karnataka who are being continuously denied of education, and they are not been allowed to enter their college premises because of the choice of dress that they are having. And we have to see that how a government which once talks about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, which means we need to save girl and we need to educate girl child. In Haryana, the BJP chief minister has taken a slogan saying that if girl child are not born, then with whose hand are you going to have chapatis? So you can understand that women have been reduced only to household work. Women have no role inside the society as if other than cooking. As if women are not wrestlers inside Haryana. The most number of medals brought inside this country are the women wrestlers inside our country. And we have been seeing, even if the BJP is today saying that yes, we want to educate the girl child, we want to ask the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is leading the central government, that if you really want to educate the girl children, why are so many girl children, why are so many girl child inside this country even today are not having equal access to education and higher education? Because without education, emancipation of women, it's the first very step of emancipating women of the discrimination that they face. Now, secondly, we are seeing continuously that throughout the country, the major issue that women have been facing is the